Hello everybody, this is Refresh and I'm here to take a look at the Lightning Aggro Challenger deck for Magic the Gathering. This is from the 2019 series of Challenger decks and it is based on the mono red aggro deck that was popular at the time. This comes with a 60 card deck, 15 card sideboard, deck box, and spin down life counter. Let's go ahead and take a look at what's inside. Here's our deck box. Have a spacer on the inside and a sideboard here, a add sheet here, a divider to separate your sideboard and the main deck. We also have a spin down life counter here. It's too bad it's not red, but there it is. Just a bunch of mountains, as you'd expect from a mono red deck. Let's take a look at our sideboard. Alright, seems like we have some anti-aggro cards here, as well as some anti-blue cards, and then some more removal for when you need it. And that is the Lightning Aggro deck. I'll play this against its compatriots, and I'll be back to let you know what I think. I think mono red aggro is often one of the most successful budget archetypes, and this is a clear example of that. This follows the Hazard aggro deck in terms of its success ratio, but it actually has so much consistency that I think it's quite powerful. It does lack, I think, in the Rekindling Phoenixes, which are some of its most resilient threats, but there's just so much potential in the combination of cards here, and let me explain how you can have some busted turns. Part of this is because of the Runaway Steamkin and the fact that there's an Experimental Frenzy here. Every time you cast a red spell, this thing grows, so you can smack with it. If you can get the 3+1/+1 counters on it, and you pull that mana off, then you can cast cards that are on top of your deck with Experimental Frenzy, and you can potentially spam the board by casting all of your cheap spells over and over and over, and then just destroy your opponent very quickly. Plus, it also has a lot of cards that can go to your opponent's face to finish off your opponent if you need to. It also has 4 full ofs of both the Chain Whirler and the Runaway Steamkin, which are, I think, critical parts of this deck. And everything in this deck really works well towards its purpose. In terms of hitting your opponent quickly, like the Gitu Lava Runners, there's so many spells here that you will often get this thing hasty and attacking fairly early on, but the Lava Runners and the Pyromancers also help enable the Wizard's Lightning to only cost 1 mana, which basically turns into a Lightning Bolt, which is very powerful. And so you can often shoot down your opponent's threats, smash with your D2 Lava Runners, all the while growing your Runaway Steamkins, and eventually getting to your Goblin Chain Whirlers, which work as well on defense as they do on offense, and can strike down a lot of X1s as well. And you have a very strong, aggressive deck. I think that this deck could be more powerful, sure, but it's also pretty good where it is, and it plays quite well. And you have some finishers like the Banefire towards late game if you need it. The sideboard, I think, is a little hard to parse what you're supposed to bring in and out, especially in terms of the removal spells that it has. I think it's easy to see that you want to use the Lightning Mare against blue decks and the Diamond Mare to gain life against aggro decks. That may not be the most obvious to somebody that doesn't have a lot of experience with Magic. And so, as always, a strategy insert for these decks is critical to really help a player that is just joining Standard for the first time, doesn't really know the meta, to know what to do with the sideboard, and to a lesser extent, figure out how to play this deck. I think this deck actually makes a lot of sense just in itself. You can really parse out by looking at the cards what's supposed to happen. You just play your threats, turn them sideways, attack, and the things that you really want to figure out better are how to use the Runaway Steamkin and what the Experimental Frenzy really does, which is essentially draw you a ton of cards. And that's it for my thoughts with this deck. I think it is quite good. It's probably the best of 2019's Challenger decks, just because of its consistency, its capacity for being explosive, but even when it's not that explosive, it just does what an aggressive mono red deck wants to do. Let me know what your thoughts were if you were able to play with this Challenger deck or the fully upgraded tier version of this deck in the comments below. If you found this video helpful, hit the like button. If you'd like to see more of these videos, you can hit subscribe. This was Refresh. Thanks for watching, and I will see you next time.